Don't worry, you genuine right.
This is Omaheke Radio.
The people's voice.
Hello and welcome to yet another exciting edition of this COVID-19 information dissemination program with me, Frederico Links. And as you know that when that 12 o'clock comes, you as a loyal listener wants to hear what we have to debunk around COVID-19. And I have mentioned earlier that today I'll be speaking to again Mr. Frederico Links from the Namibian Fact Check, who is the editor of the Namibian Fact Check. And Mr. Links, welcome to this program once again.
Thank you very much, and thank you for having me once again. It's always a pleasure.
Yes. Maybe let's remind our listeners when I'm saying Namibian Fact Check, what is Namibia Fact Check?
Right. So Namibia Fact Check is a fact-checking organization. What we do is we look at the statements we see, especially prominent people make in public, whether it's sort of on television or radio, on social media, or speeches politicians make, and then we try and see, are they speaking the truth? Are their statements backed up by evidence, backed up by facts? And then we publish reports on this on our website, and we publish some articles as well in the newspaper, in the Namibian newspaper. So most of our work now has become, has sort of been taken over by the COVID-19 situation. So now most of what we're doing is actually fact-checking, things people are sharing on social media, and especially on WhatsApp, because that's where most of the falsehoods we're seeing are now coming through WhatsApp. So that's become most of our work, to try and, because we're in this situation where information, where communication is so important, where the facts need to get out to people, that there is so many lies and hoaxes and things out there, just confuses the issue. So we try and make sure through our own way. I mean, it's not much. It's something. We try and ensure that in some way we can help people see that or identify what isn't true, and try and help people to find the credible sources, try and find the facts. So that's what we're doing mostly at the moment.
Now, Mr. Links, let's debunk or let's fact check these things that is running on WhatsApp. Whether it's true the government have approved for doctors to start prescribing ivermectin as to their patients.
No, I mean there's no such thing. Government hasn't approved such a thing. In fact, I mean, I think it was earlier this week, at the beginning of the week or at the end of last week, the Medicines Control Council issued another statement following the one they issued at the beginning of the month, stating that ivermectin is not an approved medication to treat COVID-19. So I mean, this is just this is the sort of thing that goes around. And I would encourage people, please. I mean, is that on official? Is that, I haven't seen it. Is it on an official government letterhead?
Yes.
That sort of thing. That's the sort of thing you have to look for. Is it on an official government letterhead? Is it an official government document? Is there a signature and a stamp on it and a date on it, and the person's name who authored it, and the organization who sent it out, and the people it's aimed at? These are the things you look at. If it's just some text in a WhatsApp post, that's a clear sign that what you're looking at is not true, is not authentic.
Yes.
So things like these, that people have to look at, and these are the sort of things we try and encourage people to look at, and to see, to recognize that this is what official communication looks like. This is what just some made up thing looks like.
If you are just tuning in, my dear listener, you are with me, Frederico Links, and online It's Mr. Frederico Links from the Namibian Fact Check. We are discussing a very crucial topic today, which is widespread misinformation about how COVID-19 vaccines works. Moving on, what are some reported benefits of COVID-19 vaccines in Namibia?
Right. I mean, so this is what the vaccines are proving themselves here, not just here. I mean, in other places where they've been administered longer than here. So the vaccines are meant to prevent people from getting sick. So, the virus enters your system, for instance. The virus enters your nose and goes into your body. It enters your system. Now, the vaccine's job is to prevent that virus from causing an infection.
Okay.
And then causing you ultimately, you causing an infection then causes you to develop the disease that is known as COVID-19.
Okay.
And that disease then the virus prevents that. The virus prevents the infection and then you getting sick. The virus prevents you from, it's supposed to prevent, the vaccine is supposed to prevent you from needing hospitalization, from ending up in hospital, because it prevents the infection, prevents the disease. And ultimately, it is meant to prevent you from dying.
Okay.
That's what all vaccines are supposed to do. All vaccines are supposed to, whether it's the measles or the polio, whichever vaccine, it's meant to prevent an infection. So the virus still comes into your system, it still comes into your body, but it doesn't cause an infection because the vaccine prevents it from causing an infection.
Okay, now it makes sense because people in the street are saying, why would I get vaccinated if I can get COVID-19? So the vaccine is to prevent from you getting sick.
Exactly.
Yes.
It doesn't stop the virus from entering your body.
Yes, but it prevents.
It prevents the virus from actually causing an infection, which leads to the disease developing.
Okay.
COVID-19. Yeah.
I think any listener that is at home or listening to this program now, he or she gets a clearer picture as to why they should get vaccinated. And with what data was the vaccine developed, and how was this done?
Well, all of the vaccines that have been approved for use worldwide, they went through trials. So usually there are 3 trial phases through which the vaccines have to go, and these trial phases are meant to ensure that the right components are in the vaccine, firstly, and then so in the second phase of trial, these the candidate, what they call a candidate vaccine, is then tested on animals, for instance, to see what effect it has, to see if it's safe, mostly to see mostly if it's safe, and once it proves to be safe, there it gets trialed. It goes into a third trial phase to see not just if it's safe for humans or in humans. This is now where the human trials come in, but also to test if it actually does what it's supposed to be doing. What it's meant to be doing, which is prevent sickness, prevent illness. So in the third phase of trial, that's where the data is generated on safety and on efficacy, which is, does it prevent, does it actually do what it's supposed to do, which is prevent illness?
Yes.
So based on that safety and efficacy data, the vaccines are granted approval, and in this case, emergency use approval, to be so that they can people can start administering them. Now all of the vaccines at the moment, all 7 of them, I might have said in some previous podcast, I spoke about 8, I think.
Yes.
I think that I probably was wrong. It's 7 vaccines that have been granted emergency use listing at the moment by the World Health Organization. Now, all 7 of them They have varying. All 7 of them have proven to be safe. To predominantly safe, largely safe. But they have varying levels of efficacy, which means they you have like some of them who provide very high protection against infection, and then you have some that provide less protection against infection. And then, so at the moment, 6 of the vaccines appear to be have very high, are very good at protecting people from hospitalization, which means from getting seriously ill, needing oxygen, and actually dying. There's one vaccine on which the data doesn't look very good at the moment. It sort of shows in some places it seems to have had a good effect. In other places, it has not had a good effect. But that is the data. The phase 3 trial data is what is used. The phase 3 data is what is used to approve what was used to approve all of these vaccines for emergency use. The final data on all of these vaccines, I think, will only be available towards the end of this year or early next year, if I'm not mistaken. I think for most of them that's the case. Okay. So then we will really see how effective these vaccines are. Now, as I said, 6 of them are already demonstrating that they are actually quite good at what they are meant to do, which is prevent people from getting sick. Whereas one is sort of, the picture is mixed for that one, in terms of that.
Well, Mr. Links, as I'm saying, always it is always a pleasure having you in this program, because each and every program you are enlightening us, even the reporters also, we learned new things so that we can convey this message to our listeners in the right way at the right moment. Thank you very much.
That's always a pleasure, and I look forward to these talks, because this is important. That you and me use the platforms we have to try and reach people with the right information.
Yes.
And we have to do this because people are being lied to out there. Through social media, people are being scared. What's happening? A lot of the disinformation is to scare people. Is to scare people away from actually doing what they need to do to stay healthy.
Yes.
Is to scare people away from vaccines, to scare people into rejecting vaccines, to scare people into rejecting, good advice. And that's, that's what this is about. And that's what you and me have to continue doing. I think that it's important that we do this.
Yes. Thank you very much, Mr. Links.
It was always a pleasure. Have a good weekend.
Thank you. Likewise. That was Mr. Frederico Links from the Namibian Fact Check, as we were debunking myths around COVID-19. And today's topic was widespread misinformation about how COVID-19 vaccine works. People, we heard from the fact checker. This vaccine prevents COVID, for you to get COVID-19. It doesn't stop COVID-19 from entering your body. It will enter your body, but it will prevent for you to get sick. That's it. From me, Frederico Links. I would like to thank the Namibian newspaper and Namibia Media Trust and Open Society Institute of Southern Africa for making this program a very, very reality and successful in terms of disseminating information around COVID-19. Until next week, it's bye-bye.
Don't worry, you tuned in right.
This is Omaheke Radio.
The people's voice. People's voice. People's voice. People's voice. People's voice. People's